Tal'Dorei has been destroyed by a powerful group of ancient dragons called the Chroma Conclave. Now it's up to the mischievous mercenaries known as Vox Machina to find a way to defeat the chromatic crime lords before they take over the world. So grab your D20s and roll for initiative, because it is once again time for Cartoon versus Campaign. Greetings fanboys and fangirls, I'm Erod and I'm the Blockbuster Buster, and welcome back to Cartoon vs. Campaign, where we compare The Legend of Vox Machina with the Dungeons & Dragons campaign that inspired it. Now, before we begin, a couple of quick reminders. There will be spoilers ahead, so if you haven't seen The Legend of Vox Machina Season 2, as well as the corresponding episodes of Campaign 1 of Critical Role, you might want to stop the video here. You've been warned. And the main difference between the cartoon and the campaign this time around is that the order of events between the two are radically different. So, for the sake of clarity, I will mostly be following the order of events of the campaign. Okay, now that that's clear, let's begin.
The Trials of Vasselheim.
Okay, very quickly, this is the order in which the events transpire in the cartoon. Our heroes arrive in Vasselheim via the wrong tree due to a very vague description from Keeper Yenin. And after Scanlan saves their butts with a butt, our heroes enter the city, where, number 1, they first visit the Platinum Sanctuary, number 2, the writers once again split the party, Grog goes to see Earthbreaker Grun, while the rest of the party go to the Slayer's Take, and number 3, finally, after the party reunites, Percy pops into Victor's shop very quickly to buy some black powder. Alright, now that that's been established, let's start to compare and contrast in the order that the events transpire in the campaign. First of all, in the campaign, there are no shenanigans when they arrive. Our heroes arrive directly into the Slayer's Take, where they are happily welcomed. Why? Because in the campaign, not only had Vox Machina already visited Vasselheim before, but during that adventure, they became members of the Slayer's Take. This happened during a short storyline called The Trial of the Take, which takes place before the Briarwood arc. It is during that part of the campaign that our heroes meet Kasha Vesh and Zara Hydrus, who were played throughout those episodes by Will Friedle and Mary Elizabeth McGlynn, who then reprised their roles for the cartoon. In both versions, our heroes robbed the Take of the bounty of slaying a Hydra.
How much was it cash?
12,000 gold or the head of a Hydra.
But in the campaign, they slay a couple of monsters together and become friends. Zara, Grog, Vex, Percy, and Scanlan slay a white dragon, while Cash, Keyleth, Vax, and Tiberius take on a Rakshasa, which our favorite half-elf rogue eventually defeats.
I will return, and I will find you! Heard that before.
Remember that, because it's going to be important later. In the cartoon, Vox Machina is not friends with the Take, who offer them up as a sacrifice to their patron, the Sphinx Osisa.
What do you think Osisa killed first? Probably ate them, right?
Probably the little one. Perfect appetizer.
According to Sam Riegel, the decision to make Zara and Cash adversaries as opposed to allies was done in an effort to add more dramatic tension to the story. In the campaign, shortly after they are warmly welcomed back to the Slayer's Take and reunited with Zara and Cash, and explain their situation with the Conclave, it is fellow Take member Vanessa Sindrial who politely suggests Vox Machina speak to their patron Osisa to find a way to defeat the Conclave. In the cartoon, Osisa tests the strength of their character first, before telling them of the vestiges of Divergence, a collection of ancient weapons with the power to slay titans. She then tells them where to find the first vestige, the Deathwalker's Ward, which is located in the tomb of the champion of the Matron of Ravens, and she then suggests to talk to her mate, Kamal Giori, to find out where the rest of the vestiges are. In the campaign, there is no test. Osisa just gives them the information, but it's slightly different. She does tell them about the vestiges of Divergence, but she doesn't know where any of them are. Only her mate, whose name she does not reveal, knows that information. And she tells them that they can find him south of the Frostweld. In the cartoon, good old Cammy is currently living in Rhineclef. Matt Mercer says that his location was changed in the cartoon to save Vox Machina the long trip and maintain the pacing of the story. After their meeting with Osisa is when Percy goes to Victor's to buy some black powder. In the cartoon, the scene is quick and to the point. as the gunslinger finds out from Victor that his nemesis, Dr. Anna Ripley, is still at large. Unfortunately, this is one scene where the cartoon doesn't hold a candle to the campaign, where the scene is longer, funnier, and way more elaborate. And it is simply mind-blowing to see Matt Mercer play Victor. It is so good that when the scene ended, the entire cast gave Matt a standing ovation. I could describe it to you, but I would never do it justice. This is just part of the campaign you have to check out for yourself. Our heroes stop at a tavern to have a drink, where Grog runs into an old adversary of his called Kern. And after a surprisingly civilized discussion between the two meatheads, Grog decides he's going to visit Earthbreaker Grun before he leaves Vasselheim to improve his hand-to-hand fighting skills. In the cartoon, no conscious decision is made to go see Earthbreaker Grun. Grog just stumbles into the Temple of the Trial Forge by chance, after getting split from the party by Craven Edge, having lunch, and recreating everybody's favorite butterfly meme. After finishing their drinks, our heroes go to the Platinum Sanctuary to ask for reinforcements to fight the dragons. In the cartoon, they are chastised and dismissed, as Vasselheim's secret to its survival is the city's isolation. Hence, their unwillingness to get involved with the affairs of others. In the campaign, Highbearer Board A is a man and B a lot nicer, and he politely and regretfully informs our heroes that Vasselheim can't get involved because they value peace with the gods above all, and they are concerned that fighting dragons might anger the dragon goddess Tiamat. However, the Highbearer does offer our heroes the assistance of their greatest champion, Lady Kima of Vord. Oh yeah. So Kima joins the party as they head to the Temple of the Trial Forge so Grog can have his lesson with Earthbreaker Grun. The fight between the two is pretty much the same, but with one major difference. In the campaign, Grun allows Grog to choose two allies to assist him during the fight. Grog initially chooses Pike, but as I established last time, she is not there. She's still in Whitestone dealing with that pesky blind spot. Man, don't you wish it would just end sometime between 3 to 5 seasons so they can all be together?
I understood that reference.
So in Pike's absence, Grog chooses Vax and Scanlan to assist him instead. And honestly, it makes no difference. Grog's strength, Scanlan's tricks, and Vax's speed and stealth are no match for Earthbreaker Grun, who beats the crap out of all three of them by himself with his bare hands. And by the way, look at Marisha Ray's face during this scene. I'm pretty sure this is when she decided what her next character was going to be. Pop pop! In the cartoon, Grun repeatedly asks Grog where his strength comes from.
Where does your strength come from?
And every time Grog answers wrong, the monk beats the barbarian down, eventually dismissing him from the temple. In the campaign, the question is worded, where do you find your strength? And Grog doesn't actually answer right away. Eventually, after a severe ass-kicking, Grog has a vision where Grun advises him that he is stronger than the things that bind him, and asks him again, where do you find your strength? To which Grog responds, in my friends. Grun immediately drops his fighting stance and bows to Grog, effectively ending the fight. In the cartoon, Grog doesn't figure out the answer to Grun's confounding question until much later, but we'll talk about that when we get there. After the fight, as a reward, Grun reveals that he knows of 2 of the vestiges of divergence. The first one is the Titan Stone Knuckles, but he doesn't know their location. In the cartoon, they learn about the Knuckles later from Kamal Giari, via the use of Mythcarver, and they learn right away that they are located in Westrom. The second vestige the Grun just so happens to know about is the Deathwalker's Ward, a powerful suit of armor that was buried with the champion of the Raven Queen in a sunken tomb under Morrowglade Lock. As I stated earlier, in the cartoon, they learn about the armor from Osisa, but it belongs to the champion of the Matron of Ravens. They couldn't call her the Raven Queen in the cartoon because then Wizards of the Coast would roll a copyright crit.
The Sunken Tomb and Those Who Walk Away.
Yeah, the events of these next 2 episodes are heavily intertwined in the campaign, so it's best if we do them together. Before heading out to the tomb of the champion of the Raven Queen, Grog immediately confesses to the entire party that his uncle Kevdak is the one who has the Titan Stone Knuckles. But he doesn't know where Kevdak or the Herd of Storms are currently located. On their way out of town, Vex buys a book containing information about the champion, and this is where they find out that his name is Pervon Sol. In the cartoon, they find out from Cash while they are all sitting around a campfire. And yes, our heroes have the exact same reaction in both versions of the story.
His name was Pervon.
perv on?
Last name Pedo Bear, maybe?
So, do you guys remember the infamous mist incident that I mentioned last time while Vox Machina was fighting the worm? Well, guess what? Keyleth redeems herself by using the spell correctly and turning Vox Machina, Lady Kima, Cash, and Zara into mist and quickly and safely transporting them to Marrowglade Lock. In the cartoon, Vox Machina, including Pike, go to the lock on their own and are attacked by Adara, from which they are saved by Cash and Zara, who force themselves onto the mission, claiming that Osisa sent them to help. That night, after Cash tells them about Pervon,
I mean, you gotta get your perv on.
Wow, you guys suck.
Grog puts on the belt of Dwarvenkind and instantly grows a beard. That's not the way it works in the campaign, where the success of Grog's facial follicles was strictly dependent on the success of Travis's rolls after each long rest. It took a long time for Grog to grow out his beard in the campaign, and then when he finally grew it out, Vax shaved off half of it while he was sleeping. Thankfully, that doesn't seem to be a problem in the cartoon.
Not the beard.
In both versions, via Keyleth and Zara's combined efforts, do our heroes make it to the entrance of the tomb at the bottom of the lock. In the campaign, it is Scanlan who opens the big stone doors for the party with Bigby's hand. In the cartoon, it's not as big of an obstacle.
This one's a pull?
Oh, after you.
In the campaign, Vax scouts ahead, avoiding all traps, Adaro, and a huge chasm, and leads the party safely to Pervon's tomb. In the cartoon, their journey there is far more eventful. Grog triggers almost every trap, which eventually leads to, you guessed it, splitting the party. Half the group gets attacked by Adaro, and then Cash and Zara ditch them, scout ahead in an effort to try and get the armor for themselves. They are such jerks in the cartoon! In the campaign, the party doesn't meet any real opposition until they make it to the tomb, where they are attacked by Adaro, whom they defeat easily. Do you remember that big chasm that Vax helped the party avoid on their way to the tomb? Well, a huge beholder emerges from the chasm to stop our heroes from raiding Pervon's tomb. In the campaign, Matt threw this in to commemorate the fact that the stream had gone past its 40th episode, and as a throwback, because Vox Machina's first big boss battle in the web series was with a beholder named Kabarn. In the cartoon, our heroes don't battle this creature or one like it until after the events that transpire in the tomb. But we'll talk about that when we get there. In the campaign, the battle with the beholder is your standard D&D boss battle, but with 3 major highlights. Number 1, right at the beginning, Kima gets knocked into the chasm. It doesn't kill her, but it does effectively put her out of the fight, which is the reason why I'm sure she is not included during this entire section of the cartoon. Number 2, this is the moment during the campaign when Grog and Scanlan do this move.
Oh yes, he's back! Hop on, I'll give you a ride! Get ready to fly!
And number 3, it is Mary Elizabeth McGlynn as Zara, who once again deals the finishing blow, obliterating the beholder with a witch bolt. The dice gods just love that woman. With the beholder defeated, the first order of business is to save Lady Kima from the bottom of the chasm. So Grog throws down a rope, and Vax rappels down to go get her. In the cartoon, Vax rappels down into the chasm because they still haven't found Pervon's sarcophagus. He goes alone because Grog keeps setting off all the traps, and he feels that he is the only one who can inspect the bottom of the chasm safely. It is at this point that Percy goes to inspect the sarcophagus. In the cartoon, Vex joins Percy as an act of rebellion towards her brother, who was being very condescending towards the entire party before he went down to inspect the chasm alone. In the campaign, she abandons the rescue efforts to save her friend, Kima, which involved her brother in a very precarious position because she heard that there might be treasure in Pervon's sarcophagus. Gee, I hope her continued greed doesn't come back to bite her in the ass. In both versions, sadly, the same thing happens. Percy and Vex inspect the sarcophagus together when he accidentally triggers a trap. The sarcophagus shoots Vex with a finger of death, killing her instantaneously. In the campaign, she was specifically dealt 56 points of necrotic damage, and this is after she just finished doing battle with a beholder. So not only do her hit points go down to 0, but she loses all death saving throws. In both versions, Vax emerges from the chasm only to find his sister dead. Everyone jumps into action, trying to revive her. Cash even tries to revivify her, aka a resurrection, right? But nothing seems to work, until Vax spots the goddess of death herself, the Matron of Ravens, and delivers one of the most iconic lines in both versions of the story.
Take me instead, you raven bitch!
With that, the Matron returns Vex's soul and takes on the handsome rogue as her new champion. I will admit that this is one of the most heartbreaking scenes in the campaign, so be warned. Seeing Laura Bailey in tears, thinking that her character had just been killed off, might just break you. In the cartoon, as soon as Vax makes the bargain and his sister is brought back to life, he is instantly wearing the Deathwalker's ward. In the campaign, he doesn't put on the armor until much later. So, with Vex back to life, Scanlan inspects the sarcophagus and makes sure that there are no more magical traps. But Zara is not gonna take any chances, so from a safe distance, she casts Mage Hand and uses it to take the armor out of the sarcophagus safely and put it in Vox Machina's bag of holding, along with a magical necklace owned by Pervan called the Raven's Slumber. In the cartoon, the necklace belongs to Zara, not Pervan.
Where'd you pick up that beauty? Oh, this old thing.
So, after reviving Vex and acquiring the armor, the devious tiefling tries once again to get the armor for the Slayer's take, much to Cash's reluctance, and thus, she uses the necklace to put one more obstacle in Vox Machina's path, as the necklace has the power to hold one creature indefinitely. So Zara releases said creature on our heroes, which turns out to be an onlooker. Yeah, they couldn't call it a beholder because, you know, copyright crit. Our heroes do their best to fight the onlooker, but end up petrified. Cash decides to do the right thing and help, which guilts Zara into joining in. But their aid comes too little too late. Thankfully, at that very moment, Vax accepts his fate, and the Matron activates his armor. And holy shit, this sequence is awesome! As we see Vex unleash the speed and power of the Matron of Ravens on the onlooker, and slay the creature single-handed.
Well, damn.
Look, the fight with the Beholder in the campaign was cool, but this was cooler. In the campaign, as soon as Vex is brought back to life, Percy apologizes for setting off the trap, and that's the end of it. In the cartoon, he apologizes after they have exited the tomb, and Vax responds by punching the gunslinger in the face.
Right. That went well.
I think the reason why Vax doesn't have as dramatic of a response to Percy's apology in the campaign is because during the Briarwood arc, it was his fault that Cassandra got her throat slit by Professor Anders, so he knows exactly what it feels like to make a stupid mistake that nearly gets your friend's sister killed. In the cartoon, Zara also apologizes to the rest of the party by clearing Vex and Vax's debt with the Slayer's take.
What debt?
And giving Vexalia her magical creature-holding necklace, which the Ranger uses to store Trinket.
Trinket!
I got next!
In the campaign, Vex doesn't get the necklace until later, which is yet another thing that we'll talk about when we get there. In the cartoon, Cash's continuous flirting with Keyleth is a reference to the fact that he stole a kiss from her when they first met in the campaign. The cartoon caps this off with one last hilarious line from Wilfred L. as Cash and Zara take their leave.
Hey,
What?
his Antlers watching me walk away.
Of course, love.
I got an ass that won't stop.
In the campaign, Cash and Zara don't leave, and the abrasive cleric caps off his flirtation with Keyleth with an awkward conversation in which he confesses that Keyleth was only his second kiss, and his first was his wife.
This is awkward.
In the cartoon, Vax confesses his bargain with the Matron of Ravens to Vexalia, who reassures him that everything is going to be okay. In the campaign, the entire party is aware of the bargain because back at the tomb, they all clearly heard Vax tell the Raven bitch to take him instead. In the cartoon, Vox Machina head towards Rhinecleft next, where Kamaljari will hopefully tell them the location of the rest of the vestiges. In the campaign, the entire party, including Zara, Cash, and Kima, go to Whitestone next. Vox Machina goes there to rest before the next length of their journey, while the other three are there to be part of the forces that are gathering to eventually battle the Chroma Conclave. And that's where we're gonna hit the big to be continued, and we're gonna pick up the epic compare and contrast in 2 weeks on the next cartoon versus campaign.